Hey. Man, this sucks, huh? Feels like every game nowadays is just a billboard. Like your favorite little niche website from the early 2000s having to sell out for ad space to keep the servers up. But these companies don't need this money to pay the bills. This isn't about necessary sacrifices for the sake of passion. This is the opposite. There's not only no passion here, it's all been bulldozed in the name of profits. No, this is pure greed. Just companies beholden to shareholders trying to turn profit exponential quarter after quarter. You've encountered this topic before, no doubt. So many people have talked about why battle passes ruin gaming, or how modern day monetization is ruining gaming, or loot boxes are ruining gaming, or this is ruining... Nope, not that one. So, evidently, monetization is a contentious topic. So what is there left to talk about? Well, there's a part of all this that I find interesting. That right there. Why do we feel like that? If you don't know quite what I mean, I envy you. The feeling I'm describing is almost a fatigue of sorts. The feeling that your patience has been worn thin and you just cannot be bothered to care anymore. It seems like it should be obvious why we're all so tired of this stuff. It's everywhere. Advertising is becoming less effective by the day, TVs want to come pre-packaged with ads, and even the things we once thought sacred aren't safe. And yes, it does make sense that we are fed up with all of this, but at the same time, shouldn't we kinda not be? Let's talk brains. Brains are weird, to say the least. A big bundle of gray matter and whatever else is in there, or not in there in some cases, and yet this enigmatic clump of stuff controls every single thing about our bodies. Our motor skills, urges like hunger, thirst, and... Thirst? God damn, those are some biceps. But another thing the brain regulates is decision-making. Throughout our day-to-day, we're constantly forced to make choices and restrain ourselves through our willpower, so to speak. But this willpower isn't an infinite resource to draw on. Instead, every time we use it, it becomes more and more depleted, something modern companies are acutely aware of. You might be aware of the way that grocery stores try to intentionally fatigue your willpower, to draw more money out of you, placing the things most people actually need towards the back of the store and placing as many items that one could buy on impulse in your path. So is this what these games are doing? Putting proverbial cookies in your path, damaging the UI for the sake of forcing you to navigate past all of their microtransactions, hoping to wear you down just enough that you decide to pay up? Well, I think that might be part of it, but there's something strange that's begun to happen with things like this. That feeling. A feeling I've never once felt walking through a grocery store. Not a feeling of giving in or a feeling of having to stop myself, but a feeling of just... blech. Whatever these games are trying to do is reach such a break point for me that I simply don't care anymore. Why, when games are trying to get me to spend money on them, does it seem like they're almost intentionally inducing this feeling? It's like they're shooting themselves in the foot. Perhaps it's the sheer volume of product placement. There's so many things on screen that the game wants me to buy that it overwhelms the brain. Or maybe in some way this feeling is supposed to slowly wear me down. It does feel bad after all, so maybe the idea is to draw me into purchasing out of anger or malcontent rather than genuine interest. Or maybe these ads aren't working on me because they don't need to. Let's talk about whales. Whales are all the rage nowadays, 1% of the players creating 90% of the revenue. Games have realized if they pander to the people with money by giving them power or status, those people will eat it right up. And unfortunately, it's often not just the people with money. But what about battle passes, I hear you say? Those aren't marketed to whales. True, they might not be marketed to whales, but every time you buy a battle pass, you are paying money to be a part of the product. Everyone knows that battle passes are designed to drive engagement while making you feel like you got a deal. You get all of your currency back and all of this cool stuff just for playing the game. Or, in reality, you need to play the game to get all the stuff you paid for, and that's just the best case scenario. It's like the developers are intentionally short-selling you, saying you won't make all 100 tiers, and even if you do, I'll still make money off you playing the game. So the developers never truly lose on battle passes. They keep you around to get beat on and flexed on by whales and pad player numbers, but there's still the growing problem of everything having a battle pass. Every game wants not only your attention, but now your loyalty, and yet almost none of them are doing enough to earn it. They want you to buy their microtransactions, play only their game, and leave absolutely no room for anything else recreational in your life. It's insane. And people are evidently getting fed up with this, but the money just keeps coming and rising profits are everywhere. And that's the strangest thing. Despite being so fed up, despite having that horrible feeling, despite games like BattleBit and Baldur's Gate 3 doing amazing without any BS involved, there's still enough money coming in that there's no reason for these games to stop. Back to whales. Whales. With an H. What is up with them? Why are they so ready to part with their money? For me, and likely for you, the idea of spending $500 on a skin, even if I had millions of dollars, sounds ludicrous. There's so many better ways to spend that money. But for them, spending $500 is barely even a thought. They just do it. You could contextualize it for them 1,000 different ways, and they would still be just as eager to buy whatever gotcha slop game developers decide to put out. I think the long and short of it is that some people are just more predisposed to blowing money on things. Money, after all, is a very abstract concept, and when you don't need to think about covering your needs, for these folks at least, your wants seem to be the only thing left to focus on. But not everybody who buys these things has that amount of money. In fact, sometimes they don't even have enough money to afford to purchase things like skins in the first place. There's too many cases and stories of people taking out loans to buy expensive items in video games for any responsible developer to be able to look at the evidence and say that this isn't a problem. But that's the interesting thing. Shouldn't this be weighing more heavily on their consciences, knowing that the systems they've put in their game, the things they've done to squeeze more money out of their player base, are ruining people's lives? I think it all comes back to that one word, one of the most negative words in the modern gamer's lexicon. Okay, maybe not, but you get the point. Calling people whales acts as a way to dehumanize them, turning them into a goal rather than a person. These game devs are like soldiers. They had to develop coping mechanisms to avoid the reality that they're doing these things to real people. If you're one of these whales, or you've ever seriously considered buying something like this, I genuinely urge you to rethink. If you really insist on spending all of that money, you could at least direct it to charity instead. I assure you, buying that skin, even if it's harmless to you, isn't worth it. When I say whale, what image is in your mind? Maybe a particularly affluent friend, or a Saudi oil prince, or Post Malone, or whoever, or whatever. Doesn't even have to be a person. Keep that in mind. Whales, an untapped market full of riches, just waiting to be claimed. People who just don't know what to do with their money and need an outlet to spend it. Every game's favorite customer. Whales, players who are too stupid or ignorant to realize they're being overcharged, being milked for everything they're worth, all while game developers are more focused on giving them more to buy than giving them a fun game to play. Whales. Whales aren't just the people with too much money to spend. These games are set up so developers never know who's behind that credit card at all. They can make the most flattering image possible in their mind, but reality will always creep up on you. If you're making, or in any way contributing to games with things like this, I want you to know that you're hurting people. You can talk all day about how it's their choice, shift the blame around all you want, but deep down, we both know the truth. I'd also like to address the players, the community. Game developers aren't going to change their tune. That much is obvious. But this is an issue of public health. These games facilitate all of the worst habits they can. I'm sure if there was a way for a video game to get you drunk, they'd monetize that too. I'm not big on protecting people from themselves, but stuff like this, exploiting and abusing addicts, is unacceptable. Please, I encourage you, if your friends try to buy something like this, stop them. I know it seems a bit extreme, but if you can, talk to your local representative. I think they're starting to understand that this is a problem, but most still don't seem to understand quite how much this is hurting people. Vegas will never close down, sure, but we shouldn't let anyone get away with making another one. But, above all else, just try to be understanding. Driving people away, or hating them, doesn't help anyone. Thanks for listening. Subscribe, I guess.